Haribo, Namaste, Krishna. Krishna, welcome back to my Bhagavad Gita classes that I've had a 6-month break from. Thanks for watching. So I'll just chant for a bit and then we'll be speaking on Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text 41. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhutale Shrimati Sirasarupananda Paramasa Yetinamini Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhutale Shrimati Sirasarupananda Paramasa Yetinamini Namo Sirasarupananda Paramasa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Kristayate Nama Sirasarupananda Paramasa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Kristayate Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Charine Devasesha Sunyavare Askacha Desatarine Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Charine Devasesha Sunyavare Askacha Desatarine Ajushi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Harita Garadara Vasudiko Bhaktavrinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Harita Garadara Vasudiko Bhaktavrinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasiko Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nityananda, Nityananda, Gauranga, Gauranga, 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 Radha Krishna Vrindavan, 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 Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Haribo, Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa, Parirajagasatara, Santa Shishimad, Jagakuru, Siddhaswarupananda, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa, Parirajagasatara, Santa Shishimad, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koda Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura's World Mission Ki Jai. Navadvita Dhamma Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath, Shamakun Radhakun, Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuradam Ki Jai, Mayapodam Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai, Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Krishna. Oma Gina Timarandasya Gana Gana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militanyena Tajmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Statpitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadante Kam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakapa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanan Pavenbhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. For speaking, first offer my humble obeisances at the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagatguru Siddhasarupananda Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya. He is very dear to Radha and Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are like wish-fulfilling trees, able to fulfill all the desires of the fallen living entities, and are full of compassion upon them. Haribol, Namaste, Krishna. So we've had a bit of a long break since I last gave a Bhagavad Gita class. I went to Australia and anyway, gave some courses and whatever down there and got pretty tired, and then so when I got back I was real busy, and anyway, so it was kind of like a bit of a New Year's resolution. Yeah, I'll start the Bhagavad Gita classes again. Also, I was feeling like, Prabhupada has been talking about how he likes the sharing, the idea of sharing, and doesn't really like the idea of like, people go to a retreat or something and there's like designated speakers, because other people have inspirations or things that they can, favorite verse or something they might like to say, some experience they've had in chanting Krishna's names or in their service and relationship with Krishna and with Srila Prabhupada, their spiritual master. So I was feeling a little bit like not quite sure. Anyway, so I went to this retreat on the weekend, the day before New Year's Day, and I was talking to someone and they said, just talking to them about the classes, and they said, well, they really liked my classes because they're different than other people's, right? Much more, she used the word scholarly. I'm not I don't consider myself a scholar, but I do like speaking on the scripture and like referring to the Sanskrit, the philosophical concepts. That's kind of my nature, and then I sort of realized, well, obviously no one's required to come to these classes, not like, I'm the designated speaker. I'm like just putting these on. And then secondly, it's like, I really love Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic literatures, the yoga texts, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the essential four granthas or scriptures, but also other ones as well. So anyway, so I love sharing that, and hopefully people find some inspiration or learn something that they didn't previously know. So anyway, so I'm very happy to be speaking on Bhagavad Gita again. The other thing, of course, it does, like to speak on Bhagavad Gita, well, I have to prepare and study, think about it, meditate upon it, contemplate it. So it's actually personally very beneficial, which is nice. So anyway, it's a bit of background as to what's been going on. And so anyway, so like actually we've been doing these Bhagavad Gita classes for like, I think it started before the pandemic. So it's like since about 2019 or 2020, we're just doing one verse a week. Sometimes it takes more than a week. Although more recently it's always like, well, one week per verse, not less than that, you know. So, but anyway, tonight, seeing as I haven't given a class for quite a while, 6 months, I thought we'd just do a little bit of a summary of what's going on, because we're up to Bhagavad chapter 4, and we're almost at the end of chapter 4. So just to give some context to what we're speaking on, I was just going to give a brief summary of the first 3 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So chapter 1, entitled Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra. So actually in Bhagavad Gita, in the Mahabharata, there is no chapter headings throughout there. Like there's 18 books or khandas, and they have names. Right? Like this, the khanda of the Mahabharata that Bhagavad Gita is in is Bhishma Khand, because it's the Khand where Bhishma gives his very long talks with Maharaj Yudhisthira. And also Bhishma was the first general on the Kuru's side, Duryodhana's side. And so this book or Khanda of the Mahabharata is very much about Bhishma Dev. And so anyway, but only the Khans have names. All the chapters and the sub-books within the Khans, they don't have names. So these names that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is using, they're kind of coming from or inspired by Sridhar Swami. Sridhar Swami, I think he's in the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, and he's the first Vaishnava commentator on Bhagavad Gita, and he gave each of the chapters names. And generally, most versions or Gaudiya Vaishnava versions of Bhagavad Gita have adopted the names that Srila Sridhar Swami gave the chapters. But anyway, Bhaktivedanta Swami's modified it a little bit, and he's come up with his own his names. Anyway, so chapter 1, Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra. And so this sets the scene, right? It's sort of like an introduction into what's happening. So within the Mahabharata, there's a big build-up to this battlefield, this battle of Kurukshetra. And I've spoken about this at length, and it's kind of like a little passion of mine, the conflict between the Pandavas on the one side, the 5 sons of Maharaj Pandu, and the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra, headed by Duryodhana, who are basically, Duryodhana means bad fighter, dirty fighter. And they're basically, he's like Kali personified, and they're wanting to take the kingdom, the empire, that is rightfully the inheritance of Maharaj Yudhisthira. And so that, there's just like, then the Mahabharata is like, longer than the Homer and the Iliad put together. But like, and there's stories within stories within stories. But the main story is the story about this conflict between the Pandavas and the Kurus. And so anyway, so in Bhagavad Gita, well, where it starts within the Bhishma Khand. So, Sanjaya is describing to Maharaj Dhritarashtra what's happened on the battlefield. So this first chapter, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So it's like there's been extensive effort to try and avoid the war. Krishna even himself went and mediated, went to Hastinapura to try and mediate with Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, to no avail. In fact, Duryodhana even tried to imprison Krishna. Krishna had to reveal his universal form. It was sort of like, whoa, gave Duryodhana pause. And anyway, there's all this politicking to try and avoid the war. There's politicking like who's going to be allies in the war, who's going to fight on the different sides. And so there's the 18 Akshauhini divisions. There's 11 on the side of the Kurus, 7 on the side of the Pandavas. And, and it's like a fratricidal war, it's not even quite a civil war. It's a fratricidal war, dynastic clash, two halves of the one dynasty clashing. And so people have had to choose, which side will I be on? And Krishna said, he wouldn't fight. His armies could fight, but he wouldn't fight. And so, but there was a choice. Arjuna and Duryodhana could choose which they would have. And Duryodhana, being a materialist, he wanted Krishna's army. Arjuna, of course, wanted Krishna as his charioteer and advisor. And so in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it's described, it begins with Dhritarashtra Uvacha, Dharmashecha Kurukshetra, Samaveda Yudsavaka, Mamaka Pandavaschaiva, Kimachava Kaivacha, Sanjaya. So Sanjaya, tell me, what happened on the battlefield of Kurukshetra and Dharmashetra, the field of Dharma? Kurukshetra is a very religious holy place, but his reference to Dharmashetra, the place of Dharma, is like an indication that he knows his son and their side is going to lose, right? Because they're going against Dharma. Dharma is the duty, responsibility, obligation, fulfilling one's duties in accordance with the Vedic literatures, the Manu Samhita and so on, where it's all sort of mapped out what's the correct thing to do according to one's swadharma. Swadharma is one's own dharma, one's own responsibilities or duties and responsibilities according to one's own situation in life, which is their ashrama. Are they a student or a householder, retired person or sannyasi, or are they, and then also what is their varna? This kind of word varna has been bastardized into caste. It's not actually caste, because Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 15, I think, 14 or 15, or maybe it's 13, 4:13, that he's the one who's created this system of varna, or Chaito Varna. There's 4 Varnas: the Brahmanas, the priestly people, educators, doctors, and so on; the Kshatriyas, or the warriors and administrators; the Vaishyas, the mercantile people, business people, farmers; and then the Shudras, the laborers. And they each have a particular role according to their mentality. So that's why it's sort of meaningless to say that it's by birth, because someone may take birth as a Shudra but have the mentality and propensity of a Brahmana. So then they are a Brahmana. They are not a Shudra. Birth is irrelevant. But of course, over time, the Varna system became corrupted and became a casteism based on birth. Anyway, that's a bit of another story, but on this this battle is taking place, as Dhritarashtra says, Dharma Kshetra, Kuru Kshetra. It's taking place, Kshetra is place. So it's taking place on the field of Dharma at Kuru Kshetra. Kuru Kshetra is a holy place where I forget his name. Anyway, there's different holy. Oh, Parashuram. Parashuram was one of the places where he had slaughtered the Kshatriyas in previous times, and where he made lakes of blood, right? Anyway, so this had happened at Kurukshetra. That's just one of the incidents that had happened there. There's various other incidents that happened at Kurukshetra that makes it a very special place, and a very auspicious place for the Pandavas, because the Pandavas are on the side of Dharma, of righteousness, and doing one's duty, protecting, so they're on the side of Dharma, whereas the Kurus are on the side of Adharma. They're trying to steal something, they're trying to take something that isn't theirs to take, for the purpose of exploiting it and enjoying it. Whereas the Pandavas, they're pious and righteous rulers or kings. So anyway, so that's a little bit of background there. And so of course, what happens, Arjuna asks Krishna, so this of course is very interesting, Krishna is driving Arjuna's chariot, right? Oftentimes the body is likened to a chariot, and we're like the passenger in the chariot. And and normally the reins are like the mind, which is attached to the horses, which are likened to the senses, and the soul is like the passenger, and the driver is the intelligence. So here Arjuna is very nicely having Krishna as his driver. So the relationship between Arjuna and Krishna, of course, is fascinating and very interesting. The Krishna is Arjuna's brother-in-law. Arjuna is married to Subhadra, Krishna's sixth sister, and they're also cousins. Right? Arjuna's mother, Kunti, is Vasudev's sister. So they're cousins in that way, and also they're friends, great friends. In fact, in chapter 11, when Arjuna is seeing Krishna's universal form, he's like, he's like, oh, obeisances from the front, obeisances from the side, obeisances from the rear 1,000 times, And then he starts apologizing to Krishna. Oh, Krishna, we've lain on the same bed together, and I've addressed you as Krishna or Govinda. In others, he's addressed Krishna in very, or Yadava, these are very sort of friendly, intimate words, names of Krishna. And so Arjuna's kind of like, he's apologizing frantically. He's seeing that his friend, his brother-in-law, his cousin, has this massive universal form where he's seeing all the armies going into the mouths, and he's seeing Bhishma and Drona and Karna being crushed between the teeth of the universal form. And he's like freaking out, realizing, oh my God, literally, oh my God, what have I done? I've been treating Krishna, who's obviously God, the Supreme Person, as in such a disrespectful way, calling him by personal names and making sarcastic jokes with him, like, oh, you're a great fighter, like, in Australia, everyone's very sarcastic. So if you call someone like, oh, you're a great fighter, you more or less know, oh, they're just being sarcastic, right? So this is kind of like the intimate. In Australia, of course, they love sarcasm. They think sarcasm is the highest form of wit. In America, of course, they think sarcasm is the lowest form of wit, and they generally don't get it, So like, being raised in Australia, having an Australian body, Australian parents and so on and so forth, I'm naturally quite sarcastic. But generally you have to be very careful in America, very, very careful who you're saying something sarcastic to. Will they get it? Will they appreciate it? Will they get offended? Anyway, so forget about me. The story is that Krishna and Arjuna have this very friendly, intimate, loving relationship. And Arjuna is like essentially freaking out. So anyway, so Arjuna's here in chapter 1 on the battlefield saying to Krishna, please take my chariot into the battlefield so I can see all of the people assembled here who I have to fight with. On both sides, those on my side, so Arjuna is like, and then he sees all his family members. On his side, he sees all his family members. On the opposing side, he sees grandfather Bhishma, the grandsire, the grandsire. He's not actually the grandfather. He's like a great uncle. Anyway, so he sees Bhishma Dev, he sees Drona Acharya, his military teacher, he sees Kripa Acharya, who's taught him archery, the fine art of archery, and they're not bows and arrows just like what, we kind of have these days. He's learned the arts of arrows empowered with mantras that do all kinds of, have all kinds of incredible capabilities. So he's seeing his teachers, he's seeing his grandfather, he's seeing his cousin brothers, Duryodhana, and his 99 brothers. So even though Duryodhana and his 99 brothers are demoniac, bad people, still he has this he's grown up with them. So he has this relationship with them. And he's seeing fathers-in-laws and, friends, uncles. I mean, essentially this is a dynastic struggle. All the royal families are related, and he's seeing them all on the battlefield. So, of course, he goes into despair and talks about what a terrible situation this is. His body starts shaking, his mouth is burning, his hairs are standing on end, his limbs are shaking, so on and so forth. And then he starts telling Krishna, I don't want to fight. What's the purpose of fighting? Even if I was to win and have the kingdom to enjoy, all the people I want to enjoy it with, it'd be dead, because I'd have to kill them to get it, so why would I want to do this? And then he starts talking more about, well, Krishna, why do we want to do this? It's going to be so bad. There's going to be lots of widows, and the widows will be exploited by men, and there'll be unwanted progeny, vana sankara, right? And this will be, other words, there'll be children without fathers, and this is going to cause a problem in society. And there'll be degradation. There'll be as a result of this, there'll be degradation in family values. There'll be degradation in that the offerings won't be made to the ancestors. It's a very important Vedic rite. Community projects like planting of trees and digging of wells will stop. It's just going to be catastrophic. And then he starts telling Krishna, look, I've heard through disciplic succession that people who upset the family tradition dwell always in hell. So essentially Arjuna is quoting Shastra or scripture, and he's citing the disciplic succession to Krishna. So this is kind of ridiculous. But anyway, this is what he's doing. And then at the end of chapter 1, while he sits down, his head in his hands, basically
in despair and lamentation, crying. So that's chapter 1. So then chapter 2, called Contents of the Gita Summarized. This is the second longest chapter in Bhagavad Gita, 72 verses. Longest chapter is chapter 18 with 78 verses. But this chapter begins with Krishna chastising Arjuna. What are you doing, Arjuna? How has this miserly weakness, Kaujalam, how has this overcome you? You're an Anarya, a non-Aryan. Aryans are, religious people doing the right thing. You're behaving as a non-Aryan. You're showing weakness. Essentially, he's like calling Arjuna a man-woman. What are you doing? This is ridiculous. Pull yourself together. And so Krishna just speaks a few verses like that, like 3 verses, I think it is. And then Arjuna basically like melts down again, like explaining to Krishna, no, how is, Krishna, how can I kill people like Bhishma and Drona? Katham Bhishma Maham Sankhye Dronam Cha Madhusadana Ishubi Pradiyochami Pujaha Varisudana Asudana. Krishna, you killed demons. Madhusadana, Krishna, you killed the Madhu demon. You're killing really bad people, right? Demoniac people, causing all kinds of disturbance. The demon Madhu had stolen the Vedas. Krishna had to kill him by trickery. And Arisudana, Krishna in his youth, his boyhood and youth in Vrindavan, had killed all kinds of demons, beginning with Putana and the Kat demon, Sakadashura, then Trinavata, the whirlwind demon, Agashura, the snake demon, Keshi, the horse demon. Anyway, a large number of demons Krishna has killed. And but Krishna, so you're killing bad people, right? But you're asking me to kill Bhishma and Drona. So anyway, so Arjuna speaks a couple more verses after that. And then finally, he essentially just surrenders to Krishna. Tvam prapanam. Krishna, please, I'm sishyaste aham sharimam tvam prapanam. I'm a sishya, I'm a disciple, surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. He's finally come to this point where he's essentially, begging Krishna, please instruct me. I don't know what to do. Yakshreya shan nishitam bruhitan me. Please, Yakshreya, please tell me what is truly auspicious. Shreyas, what is auspicious? What's the right thing to do? Or most auspicious, beneficial. Truly beneficial. There's 2 terms, Shreyas and Prayas. Prayas is like, what's for my short-term good? In other words, like, short-term good is like, well, Arjuna doesn't want to fight because it's a messy business. It's brutal. He's got to kill people. He's going to kill people that he loves, that he has relationships with. He doesn't want to do it. So prayas, short-term benefit, would be like, I'm not going to do it. Heck, I'm out of here, man. Like Arjuna says, I'd rather live by begging. I'd rather be a beggar than engaging in this warfare. Because he's a kshatriya, a prince. How can he become a beggar? And how can he renounce his obligations and responsibilities to his family members? Maharaj Yudhisthira, his brother Bhima, his younger brothers Nakula and Sahadev, the twins of Madri. How can he, abandon those responsibilities? Obviously he can't. His wife, Draupadi, who'd been dragged before in the gambling arena, dragged before all the men and attempted to strip her naked in front of everyone. I mean, so how could he? And everyone there, I've said this a few times, but like there's these 18 Akshauhini divisions. There's 11 on the side of the Kurus, and there's 7 on the Pandavas' side. So they're outnumbered, 11 to 7, which is almost like 150%, 1.5 to 1, right? Heavily outnumbered. And there's equal numbers of great fighters. Forget the term, but the great Maharatha fighters. There's equal numbers spread on both sides. So but what is it that brings the whole thing into balance? It's Arjuna. Arjuna is such a great fighter that he's able to make up for this imbalance with the 11 to the 7. Okay, well, you got the 11 is like this and the 7 is way up in the air, But with Arjuna, it's like made to balance, right? There's some balance there, And here, of course, we've got Arjuna freaking out. I'm not going to fight. I'd rather be a beggar, So Duryodhana and all the guys on the other side going, great, this is awesome, fantastic, So anyway, finally Arjuna comes to the point where he's like, Yakshreya nishitam bruhitam me. Please tell me definitely, Krishna, this is Bhagavad Gita 2.7, what is Shreyas? What is the proper thing for me to do? So prayas is to leave the battlefield. But Shreyas is like, what is for my ultimate benefit? What is for the ultimate benefit for myself and for everyone here on the battlefield? So he's turning to Krishna. Please instruct me. Tell me, definitely, bruhitan me. Tell me definitely, nishitam bruhitan me. Tell me definitely what is the best thing to do. So of course this is the attitude we should all be taking in our lives. Krishna, please direct me. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Guru Dev, please engage me in what is the best thing to do. What should I be doing with my life? I should be taking guidance from Krishna, the Lord in the heart. As I face difficulties, like people have been circulating this wonderful words of Prabhupada about experiencing distress in one's life. If we have an easy life, then when we come to the time of death, we'll be like, oh my God, we'll be like, we won't have been taking shelter in Krishna. But if we're experiencing distress, then we have to take shelter. Because we realize I'm not in control. When things are going bad, that's when it's like, oh my God. Literally, oh my God, let me turn to you. So this is what Arjuna is asking. Krishna, tell me, please, definitely, what I should do in this situation. So then, of course, and then he says a couple more things, and then he says to Govinda, I shall not fight. So even after he said, I'm surrendered to you, and tell me what you want me to do, and please instruct me, still he sort of says a few more words and gets to the point where he says, Govinda, I shall not fight. And then he falls silent. He's all talked out. He's like, blurted out all this stuff, and he's going through his crisis on the battlefield, like nervous breakdown and shaking and crying and, lamenting and dropping his bow and arrows. I mean, these Gandiva bow. I mean, like this is just like, all in front of everyone. So it's just like, so he's finally all talked out. Now he's like, okay, all right, so now, Shri Bhagavan Nuvacha, the Blessed Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. One means full, Bhaga refers to opulences. The one is full of all opulences, which is analyzed by Parasara Muni as the 6, described in a verse in the Vishnu Purana. The wealthiest, the wisest, the most beautiful, the most renounced, the most famous, and the most wise. If I hadn't said that or before, anyway, there's 6, right? So, Sri Bhagavan Nuvacha, now Krishna begins to speak. And the first things he speaks, he explains that no one dies. No one dies when the body dies. We're all eternal souls. So Arjuna, wake up all your lamentations for nothing. You can't kill anyone anyway. They're eternally existing. You, me, all these kings, we exist in the past, we exist right now, and we'll all exist into the future. And you're lamenting for that's not worthy of lamentation. We are all eternal souls. We should be equal in happiness and distress. Right? Explains that. Then he starts to, Krishna then speaks about mental equilibrium. Don't be distressed. Be equal in happiness and distress. Just like the coming and going of the summer and winter seasons. Sitoshna, sukha dukkha daha. Sukha, happiness, dukkha, distress. They come just like sitoshna, winter and summer. So don't, be equal to tikshva. Be tolerant. And this is one of there's 3 principal aspects of all yoga paths. And the first one is samatvam, equanimity, being equal. Having equal vision, seeing everyone as spirit soul, but also equanimity, being equal in happiness and distress. Krishna talks about this equanimity, samatvam, multiple times throughout Bhagavad Gita. Multiple times. Chapter 12, when Krishna is glorifying the qualities of his devotees, he says equal in happiness and distress like 2 or 3 times in 6 verses. This is how important it is. And this ties into another aspect of yoga, which is renunciation or detachment, which I saw and posted on my Facebook page an interesting quote from Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, where he was explaining jnana and vairagya. Jnana is knowledge, vairagya is detachment, renunciation. Right? So Bhaktivedanta Swami says, jnana, knowledge, means to know that I'm not the body. So that's the first thing. Right? And of course, not the body, dominated part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. My function is to serve him, right? Anyway, so the first thing is understanding I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul, I'm eternal spirit soul. So that's jnana. The second is vairagya, detachment, renunciation. And what is that? Knowing that I'm not this body, that I'm not material, then understanding I have no real connection with this world. So naturally, I'm detached from it. Because I'm not this body. So there's natural detachment. So, so Krishna establishes right from the start equanimity, samatvam, being equal in happiness and distress, and detachment. The third, of course, is sacrifice, which Krishna begins to speak more about in yajna, sacrifice. Speaks more about it in chapter 3, text 9, where he says yajna must be performed. And then in chapter 4, he speaks at length about different types of sacrifice for acquiring knowledge. So Krishna explains that no one dies when the body dies. We're eternal souls. We should be equal in happiness and distress. And that Arjuna should perform his kshatriya duty. And doing so will open the doors to heaven. Swagadwaram. But not doing so will lead to hell. So Arjuna has been telling Krishna, look, if we do this, we're going to go to hell. So here in this section, just as a series of like 7 or 8 verses, Krishna talks on a very practical level, rebutting Arjuna's arguments. No, Arjuna, you won't go to hell if you fight. In fact, you'll go to hell if you don't fight. But if you do fight, the doors of heaven will be thrown open to you. The kshatriya who performs his duty, for him the doors of heaven are thrown open. And, by the way, if you don't fight, all these people that you respect, like Bhishma and Karna and Duryodhana, Drona, they're all going to call you a coward. They're going to laugh at you. They're going to accuse you of being, of leaving the battlefield out of fear. And what could be worse for a person like yourself than to be mocked by your opponents? This would be unbearable for you, Arjuna. So this is like, this is kind of like shattering. This is directly responding to Arjuna's, concerns that he was raising. And Krishna is like shooting them down and appealing to Arjuna's sense of who he is, that he's a kshatriya, a warrior. This is his nature. This is the person's nature is known as swabhava. This is your nature. Krishna says, we each have our own nature. It's very hard to change one's nature. This, of course, is not a justification for acting like a demon, but we have our own particular natures. Krishna even says to Arjuna, what will repression accomplish? Like in chapter 3. If Arjuna was like to go and, become a beggar and not engage in warfare, and sit and meditate. Can you imagine? You got this warrior going and sitting down and meditating? It's just never going to happen. It's not practical. He's a man of action. If he sees injustice taking place, he'll automatically get involved. Krishna tells him, you're going to fight anyway. Doesn't matter what happens, man. You're going to be, by your nature, you'll be engaged in warfare. It's just going to happen. What will repression accomplish? Yeah, so, and also Krishna addresses this vana sankara. He says, no, there won't be there'll be vana sankara if you don't fight. You're gonna set a bad example for everyone. Then Krishna moves into buddhi yoga, the yoga of intelligence, which means working with knowledge detached from the results of our activities. It's otherwise known as nishkama, kama yoga. Kama, K-A-M-A, nishkama, means without material desire. So I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do according to the Vedic literatures, according to the rules of Varna Ashrama, that Krishna himself, that the Supreme Lord, has given. So this is not, of course, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada calls it devotional service, but it's devotional service in beginning stages. It's not motivated out of love for Krishna. It's motivated more out of a sense of duty and obligation and responsibility, and because it's the right thing to do, and because these are the instructions of the Lord. So one is doing it not out of love. So this is nishkama karma yoga, working without attachment to the results. And by doing so, one can attain samadhi and shanti, peacefulness. Samadhi means deep meditation and peacefulness. So in chapter 3, I'll just talk briefly, I'll just finish this so that next week we can start on chapter 4 and do the class I was supposed to give. This is kind of what happens sometimes. Anyway, so Karma Yoga, chapter 3, Karma Yoga. So Arjuna is confused. Arjuna is confused by Krishna talking about jnana, knowledge, and meditation, samadhi. Right? Krishna's been talking about, Krishna's been talking about prajna, or knowledge, wisdom. He's talking about sthita prajna, being seated in knowledge, being seated in wisdom. He's talking about knowledge and pursuit of knowledge and samadhi, meditation. So Arjuna's confused. Well, wait a minute, do you want me to fight or not? You're telling me I should fight. Krishna tells Arjuna in 237, just fight, perform your duty, don't be attached to success or failure. Just fight for the sake of fighting. And other places in chapter 2, Krishna tells Arjuna to fight. So Arjuna's kind of like, wait a minute, you want me to engage in meditation and you want me to acquire knowledge and you're telling me to fight? Will you please tell me? So again he uses this term, shreyas. Will you please tell me what is for my ultimate benefit? Gosh, Krishna, I'm just totally confused. And, should I fight or not? So then Krishna explains the importance of sacrifice, yajna, and expands upon nishkama karma yoga, working without attachment to the results. And then he talks at a very practical level again, the importance of setting the example. The common people follow the example of the leaders. Arjuna is in a leadership position. If you don't perform your duty, Arjuna, you're going to cause nothing but trouble. And then Krishna even explains that, hey, if I didn't do my duty, in other words, Krishna's duty, if Krishna didn't perform his duties, then the world would go to hell. So Krishna, you can read in Krishna book, when Narada Muni goes and to Dwaraka and visits Krishna and goes from palace to palace, to see what Krishna is doing, and he sees Krishna engaged in different activities. But Krishna is engaged in different activities according to the Vedic injunctions. Krishna is setting the example. He's performing his duty, and he says to Arjuna, look, if I didn't perform my duty, the world will go to hell. So this is very practical. This karma yoga, very practical. Again, the importance of dharma, doing one's duty, fulfilling one's responsibilities. This is, a very important concept. It could totally, very much opposed to the West. In the West, of course, there's some sense of doing duty, but it's all about me, the individual, what will make me happy. Right? There's some notable examples to the opposite. Like Queen Elizabeth in England, formed her duty. Throughout my life, I'll perform my duty. There's this famous speech she gives when she ascended to the throne. I will perform my duty. And Churchill, very duty-oriented. So there are examples. There's examples of others, rulers, leaders, government leaders, who aren't concerned about duty and doing the right thing. They're only concerned about themselves. I shan't mention who I'm referring to. But anyway, so there's this is very important. Krishna is very practical. Bhagavad Gita is very practical. It's not airy-fairy philosophy. It's very practical about how to live our lives and who we are, what the purpose of life is, what we should be doing with it. Very practical. So after explaining about the importance of setting the example, he teaches the dangers of lust, karma, and how to defeat it, describing lust as the sinful, all-devouring enemy. He explains to Arjuna where this enemy is located and how to defeat this enemy. So anyway, then that brings us to chapter 4. So we'll start on that next week. I'll just chant a couple of names of Krishna to end the class, and we'll see you all next week. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, Krishna Krishna, Shrimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna.